Hey, Natasha.
Hey, hi Nadine, morning.
Morning. So lovely to have you with us. So lovely to have you with us this morning. We were talking about where we had our frequency meet, and we're both certified high performance coaches. And you did the first ever training, which was in 2013.
Yes.
Yeah, and then I did the year straight after that, which was in 2014, along with one of our colleagues, Darren Abrahams, as well. And oh my gosh, high performance is just off the chart, isn't it?
It really is. And when I found it, it was amazing. And now it's even more amazing with the backdrop that we're all living in. So relevant.
So relevant. And what I love about the work that we do is I love the structure. And the fact that we can add on anything else we do around it. And I think that's really, 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 really wonderful. I feel very, very blessed to have met you there as well.
Oh, likewise. Absolutely. Biggest blessing of all.
Yeah. And the last thing is that we are it's a science-backed program, which has been Brenda Burchard has put it through so much research. And we are only one of few. So there are not many of us coaches that actually
do. Bijou community of some really cracking coaches worldwide. Yeah, absolutely. Hey, listen, there are sometimes I'm not one for blowing my own trumpet, and it's not about blowing my trumpet. It's about blowing the combination of you, me, Darren, all the other coaches in the community that combine a science-backed curriculum of coaching, which is off the scale amazing for clients. And we all go through it. We all coach each other, I know, on a regular basis, because you can't ever, there is no natural end. It's a journey. And even though you can have gone through the program, often clients, as we do, I'm 8 years on or whatever, happy to go back through the curriculum, because actually at the end you find yourself in a very different place.
Exactly.
You are ready to just continue the journey. It just keeps better and stronger and more impactful in a good way in your life.
Absolutely. And we have to retrain every couple of years anyway, so we don't have a choice but to keep stepping up. Brendan doesn't let us keep our qualification if we don't retrain. So, and one's coming up in November.
I know, just weeks away, huh?
Anyway, I better start this chat session. Hi, I am Nadine Benjamin, and I'm an international soprano. I am also a certified high performance coach. I am an accredited NLP mind coach, which is neuro, the brain, linguistic, how we speak to the brain, and programming, the different kind of patterns that we set up within our brain. And I help people break through those limiting beliefs. I love connecting, championing, and celebrating people. And today I am celebrating Natasha Mogg-Addis. Natasha is founder and managing partner of the international coaching and consultancy firm NM Consulting, established in 2012. Her root lies in leading teams corporately in multi-million pound organizations with a fashion, retailing, and marketing focus. An accomplished transformational leadership coach, she guides successful, high-performing senior executives, C-suite and entrepreneurial professionals to their next levels of role model and inspirational leadership. Natasha developed the Bringing Leadership to Life program, which is delivered one-to-one or as a cohort of leaders collectively as an organization's formal leadership development journey. She is an authority in unleashing human potential and raising the level of personal, team, and organizational performance for her clients around the world. And you are just amazing. And you are, even in the community, you are one of these people that, continues that leadership. And I love you for it. And I just want to say to everybody today, as I always say, please, please, please stay in connection with people that you feel may need it, or if you feel that you need some form of support, you know, pick up the phone. If you know somebody's quite shy and can't pick up the phone for themselves, pick up the phone for them, to them, let them know that you're there, write to them, email them, send a voice message, sing to them down the phone, you know, have a WhatsApp video call, Zoom, Skype. I mean, we have so many ways of staying in connection. Just because we're not physically in connection doesn't mean to say we can't be emotionally in connection. When you change the way you look at things, the things you look at change. So important. So remember, you know, the way you think is how you feel, and how you feel is how you act. So let's think together this morning with vibrancy. So tell me, Natasha, what made you decide to become a coach?
Wow, gosh, big question. I will give you a summary answer, but if anybody is interested in more, you can always get in touch. My own personal life journey, I guess, is beneath it. You know, there's always, I think, a beneath story, the real truth. And then there's the story on the surface, the one that is much more in our kind of conscious lifestyle and our being on the planet. And the real story was that I was called, is the only way I would describe it. And people often talk about, oh, it's a calling and whatever, like it's a fabulous experience. And sometimes the calling is is really a very hard path to tread. And that was mine for sure. I basically had been working, you know, plus 20 years in corporate space, and had been very successful in seemingly to, you know, reach the dizzy heights of executive board and working in very large corporates where I was traveling throughout the world. I was leading teams. I had a lot of seemingly stress, even though I would have told you I didn't. I enjoyed every moment of it. It was my dream job. It was working in clothing, the fashion industry. It was amazing. And I somehow lost the plot along the way. And I thought that just that feeling of doing a great job and enjoying what you do and being there for my family, well, my then diminished family, because I went through a divorce during that period as well in my career with 3 very young children, so 3 boys under 5, and still keeping this big job going because it was my job to keep the roof over our heads. So huge amounts of stress and responsibility. I think that's where the word responsibility really comes in. And I naturally took responsibility. I always have. Since I was a small child, I was happy to take responsibility. And it caught up with me. It took about 10 years after my divorce and keeping it all together on the surface amazingly well. Like people would call out, I don't know how you do it. And, you know, how do you manage all of this? And you're doing such a great job and the boys are great and, you know, you always look nice and you always have time for other people. You're kind, you're a good person and you do all of this. And it's like, yeah. And then my new husband, because I did meet a new chap, Christopher, who continues to be my husband. We basically went for dinner with some friends at their house and we got back one Saturday evening. And in my bathroom, and it's still my bathroom, I have a bath with a long mirror across the bath. So there's kind of this sort of horizontal strip of mirror, which is quite deep. You can pretty much see the whole of you when you're in the bathroom. And I was getting changed. And as I took my top off, I noticed in the mirror, as you do, this horrific, I can only describe it as horrific, band of red rash, looking very sore and angry, ran from the middle of my tummy here, around my ribs, and all the way to the middle of my spine. And I'd never seen that before, but I knew intuitively what it was, and I had developed shingles. And I saw it, and it scared the living daylights out of me, because I thought I knew what it was. And that followed with full burnout, i.e. fatigue. I mean, it was hard to extract what was shingles and what was burnout. But, you know, I look back now, I'm not, I've said this a few times during this period of lockdown and so on, particularly because I think it's become more aware to me. So I have such a strong, natural, optimistic, positive outlook. I look back now at that period, which probably lasted a good 2 to 3 years, if I'm honest. And I actually think I was depressed. But I say that not with any, like, I don't know what it is, because I genuinely didn't put that label on it at the time. I just thought I was going through a really rough patch. And life was hard, you know, and I didn't sleep. And everything just seemed so unattainable to what I had been used to. You know, everything sort of virtually moved away, and it was kind of like in the distance somehow from where I was. Now, I might be describing what somebody else who has labelled depression is depression, but I think it's a very unique situation. But yeah, it was really tough. And one of the things, going back to your question of why I became a coach and why this is the underlying feeling that I had, was that, you know, everything I had done, I had learned so much and I'd succeeded in so many ways that it was kind of banked, is how I see it now. It was banked in this wonderful reserve of experience and knowledge, and life journey, and discovery, you know, of self, you know, who I was. Because I was in a place I'd never been. You know, I hadn't ever seen this part of me. And I had to learn how to get myself out. And, you know, as most people would, I visited the GP, and I sought, obviously, medical help with the shingles initially. But actually, after several visits to the GP and conversations that I don't need to share, and some of, you know, the audience listening to this may have had similar experience at some point, the answers weren't there, funnily enough. You know, I remember being told that the way I felt after shingles had kind of cleared up, as much as they do, and I had got myself on a path of just sort of self-healing and taking responsibility again for getting myself better. I was told that it was either, and even female doctors told me this. I'm very happy to say I'm 57 years old. Okay. And I'm very happy to say that, because it's part of what my answer is around why I became a coach. Because, you know, I remember female doctors, even younger than me, probably, but more than one, said to me, they looked at me like, say, you know, I was saying, I don't recognize myself. I don't know where I am. My health has just gone away, and I don't understand what I can do. And it's like, you know, I'm sort of asking, am I missing something? Should I be doing something? And all I was ever really offered were sleeping tablets, antidepressives. And the third piece of advice was just to understand that it was my age. that one landed, because the other two were just a no-brainer, no, thanks. When the third one landed, that was me saying, I think I'm done with going to the GP.
Yes.
So there I was, around 40, I would say. And I spent 2 or 3 years, as I say, on a path of self-healing. Discovery, I should have, if it had ever been all collected up in one place, probably 2 PhDs in everything that I read and researched.
Yeah.
And more importantly, you'll love this piece because it's who you are as well, Nadine, is I put it into practice.
Absolutely.
I tried everything. I wanted to have a go. So when it said gluten has a big effect potentially on your sleep and mood and energy, I was like, well, they all need improving, so I'm going to give up gluten for a good while. So I did that. I gave up tea and coffee for a day. And then 9 years later, I think it's now, I don't have tea or coffee anymore. I drink the occasional green tea or a matcha latte with coconut milk, but I haven't had black tea or coffee for years. I started with literally one day, and then I did another day. And then on the third day, I got a humongous headache that lasted for 4 days. And then I realized I won't be drinking tea or coffee because I can never go through that again. So in all of this, I share, it was a personal journey. And actually what I became during that time, as I look back, was my own coach.
Yes, absolutely.
And the calling was for me to find a higher level of thinking, an out of the box, anything's possible here. It was the voice in my head that sat in that GP clinic with one of those female doctors saying, it's just your age.
Yeah.
And the voice in my head saying, nah. No, I'm not going that path. You've opened the door to a path I could go down, but I'm not going down that one.
No.
I'm going to look for another path. So, in coaching, we would ask the client at that stage something like, what else could you do?
Yeah, exactly.
And I was asking myself these questions. So in a long-winded, perhaps, way, it was my own journey that brought me to coaching. And I actually, one way or another, with help of how we all get help through, divine consciousness, whatever the label is for you out there, I found my inner coach.
Yeah.
There, I went into, setting up my own business, not to be a coach, but just to share my experiences in through consulting, and clients actually then started asking me to coach them on the things that I was sharing. So the road was not an obvious one, but a very powerful one is what I would say.
Oh, it's so beautiful. Good morning, Linda. Lovely to see you. Saying good morning. Please say hi, everybody. And if you've got any questions for Natasha, and she can answer them, she will. So please write in the chat. This system can be a tiny bit slow sometimes, but just write in and we'll see it eventually. But what a beautiful just answer to that question. It was so full and meaty, and I loved it, and so true and so authentic. I wouldn't have expected anything less. And you talk about divorce, and actually a lot of us, I'm realizing, don't get the opportunity to talk about when we're divorced, because I've been through a divorce as well, and it was hard. I found it really soul crushing, and it was the tools in the box that I had already set, because I had started out as an NLP coach beforehand, that I was able to draw upon, but it still needed me to and that's when I found Brendan, in the high performance coaching. So your story for me just makes me go, and the age thing, Oh my gosh, because I'm 46, you know.
And looking amazing.
and people often, never told anybody my age properly until the other day on one of these sessions. Gráinne Gillis interviewed me. And it's so important, I'm realizing, just like you're saying now, is that we do expose our age and tell our age, because that is wisdom. That is experience. That's
Totally.
Yeah, that's all the things that the wealth, it's like a wealth of knowledge that we bring to a coaching session when we're in front of a client. We're bringing them that experience and how we walk through that adversity. I mean, and it's exciting because actually it's not, we don't see it, you know, and I know you don't see it either. We don't see it as, oh, that was my life and it was terrible and da da da. We're like, this is what helped me to build courage rings and resistance and resilience and persistence and perseverance and, you know, love and, you know, listening and intuitiveness, you know. So yeah, thank you for saying all that. It's just like, so when you say so I mean, this question might be even superfluous now, you know. If you were to say, okay, in like a couple of, you know, sentences, then how would you say that coaching has affected your life?
Oh wow. Well, let's start with the headline. I physically, mentally, and spiritually, emotionally, or on every level, I'm getting younger every year.
Yes.
You know, and I say younger even to things like emotionally and spiritually, because I'm curious. And when you're curious, it comes from a place where you know with every cell in your body that you know so little, even with 57 years of amazing experiences and so much knowledge that's, you know, that you've acted on, so it's become who you are. I'm getting younger every year.
Yes.
So that answer your question in one sentence.
Amazing. That's like, you know, what is it, the goblet, the goblet of life. You know, the goblet of life is basically coaching. And it's transformational leadership coaching. That's the goblet of life. And actually, I also loved what you said about, you know, a lot of people get really afraid to be with a coach because of what you're talking about, is that journey can be just as painful as it can be exuberating and lovely. But when you're walking aside a client, you know, they've got you championing them and celebrating them, and but when we started, you're right, we had to self-coach ourselves. We didn't have any chance.
Nadine, you hit the nail on the head. You know, I was going to add at some point probably that you know, I didn't have a me to find to get the support. And actually, one of the things that, you know, I didn't know at that time when I was super ill and I was just dealing with healing and then getting myself better, and I continue on that path, by the way. I think we can always get better all the time. I wouldn't have thought of seeking a coach at that time. And if I had, which I did many years ago when I was in corporate roles, I did an MSc in extraordinary leadership. What a blessing that was. 2 years sponsored by my company as a senior woman to go off and study leadership, inspirational leadership, and you know, 2 residential courses, one at the IMD in Lausanne, amazing management school. But my life-changing piece was at the Darden University in Virginia, the University of Virginia. And I came away from there just a changed being. That was transformational. We can talk more about that. But it was, you know, I came back a different person. And people often use that phrase, but they don't really unpack it. They don't really look to understand what took place, what happened, what course of events led to that, in my terms, transformation.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's.
Let's talk about that. You mean we're talking about stepping up into excellence. I mean, we've done a whole lot talk about that already. But if you were to put specificity onto it, like in terms of what would you say transformation is?
I call it cellular change. Yeah. For me, transformation takes place, in your cells, yes, at the level of your energy and your intelligence, of which both are proven through quantum mechanics to exist in your cells. Yeah. And for me, I'm super tuned into that. And I'm no physicist, believe me. My physics teacher at school, if he ever comes across this recording, he's just going to, I think a little bit of pee-pee might come out when he laughs so hard. Literally, I'm not a physicist for anyone watching, but I do get quantum mechanics. I read a book 2 or 3 years ago on holiday, and it was a holiday I took with my family, and we were all completely exhausted. I think the boys were at uni, exams. My husband was working super hard. I was working super hard. And we took this 10-day holiday to one of the Canary Islands. And it's so not my normal holiday, but we took 10 days at this hotel, and we were lying on sun lounges, and we were all reading books and whatever. And there was, some sort of disco music pumping, and some promotion for Frexinet with something going on somewhere with cocktails and people wandering around. And I'm reading a paperback about how to understand quantum mechanics easily by Italy's leading physicist, whose name escapes me right now. But I will send you the information about the book for anybody who is interested. On as a comment. And for me, that's where transformation takes place, where actually, so let me explain how clients usually experience this and how I've experienced it myself, but from a client point of view. Clients generally that have the transformations, real high level transformations, come into the process at the very least just committed to change. Yes. And generally they may have something in their mind about what it is that they'd like to change initially, like that is in their conscious awareness. It's brought them here. It's something that's challenging them, or maybe not that. Like sometimes I find clients are often, they're just plagued with a feeling that there's more, but they can't put their finger on what it is that's not right, or maybe wrong, or needs attention. They can't articulate it, but they are going off an intuition, a feeling that something just isn't feeling great, and they really should do something about it. So for me, it's the client is ready to commit to change, and they're also ready to embark on a journey, which is usually what I share with them pretty much right at the beginning, even when they are super clear what it is that they'd like to work on. I also then explain that actually you're embarking on a journey where I am absolutely sure that the things that are on their menu, their list of things to work on, will absolutely get worked on. But the journey is one that, in a film, sometimes they they portray, you're in a tunnel or on a path and it's all dark. And basically you have to take one step, one piece of motion starts putting on some lights, but the lights are only a few steps ahead of you all the time. The rest of it is just dark. And I talk about this all the time because that was my experience. I just had faith to take one step.
Yeah, absolutely.
It was faith. I don't think I even had courage at the time. It was just something much bigger than everything. It was just, I trust me, and I'm going to trust in something even bigger than trust.
Yeah.
So I'm going to have faith that one way or another, I'm going to be all right.
Yeah.
That's all you need sometimes in order to embark on the journey.
Yeah.
And the more clients are willing to embrace that part of the journey,
Yeah.
I find that also transformation is likely to come quicker,
Yeah.
and more deeply,
Yeah.
and more impactfully in the way that they couldn't even imagine.
Yeah.
Like they could not. I often have clients, and I'm sure you do too, Nadine, that say to you after any length of coaching with you, it's like, I can't believe where I am now.
Yes.
Where I was at the beginning.
Yeah.
Right?
Sometimes don't they even say it after like the third session?
Totally. Completely.
Yeah. Yeah.
Or the first.
Yes. Exactly. Yeah.
So for me, it's about that cellular change where we learn and take on new perspectives.
Yeah. We
work at putting things in action that feel uncomfortable, because they're not our usual habits.
Yeah.
They're not our usual behaviors.
Yeah.
Sometimes, we've had this in our own, journey as coaches, to kind of get more mastery in this so that we can help clients, from a place of forward, forward for them.
Yeah.
But ultimately, just getting that courage to go somewhere where you haven't been before. And that brings me back to personal leadership. I just think the transformation for me, although I work a lot with corporate leaders and professional leaders, either of just the organisation, but often are people leaders as well. But in their lives, they need to be leaders. They're a wife or a husband or a mother or all three, a sister, a daughter, all of these things.
Yeah.
So for me, transformation happens at the cell, and it's all of those new skills and new behaviours and finding new outcomes, things that wouldn't have shown up as an option before. And all of that leads to confidence. Ultimately, transformation for me is that the client leaves each session feeling and spinning at cellular level with confidence in their own life, in their own being.
Yeah. I love that. And especially that last bit, because I think most people don't recognize that, confidence needs to be practiced, and we practice it by doing what you're saying, is taking that one step at a time. And then we get a new part of it, and then a new part of it comes, and that thing around being able to go forward until you can see in the dark, and, somebody like you is going to be holding that space so brightly, until they can turn their own torch on. And I feel that level of transformation that you're talking about on the cellular level, and what I love about you as a coach specifically is when you talk about cellular level, you're not just talking about how we think. You're talking about the food that you put in your body. You're talking about the clothes that you put on every day. You're talking about the surroundings that you have around you. I mean, I know you live that, so it's so exciting for someone to be able to work with you and have a complete journey. We're always working, and nothing's ever in full completion, but to know that all sides are covered by Natasha.
It's the full 360 transformation. This way outplays makeovers, believe me. So last year. Makeover inside out, round the back, round everywhere, in dimensions you didn't know you existed in.
Linda was just saying, very powerful story. You completely transformed your life. She did, Linda, absolutely. When we talk about excellence, do you have a kind of definition of that, or do you think I mean, I don't know. I mean, it's a bit of a controversial one, excellence at the moment, especially in the world that we're living in. What would your thoughts be around that?
So I think the controversy sometimes comes up that, you know, excellence might be too far for someone. Or it's a bit like striving for being perfect.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, I believe both words, by the way, fall into this same category, is that excellence for me is just the highest level I can go.
Yeah.
Right? So, and that's my level.
Yeah.
So everybody individually has their highest level.
Yeah.
And for me, it's about striving to be at your highest level.
Yeah.
And if I'm a bit harsh about it, it's like, why wouldn't you want to be at your highest level when you just can?
Yes. Yeah.
And my understanding and my full knowledge, but I'll call it my belief for want of a better word, is that everyone has the opportunity, just by being alive, to seek to be at their highest level.
Amen to that. I love that. Yeah.
And it goes with perfect as well. Perfect is, again, it's a bit like, you know, beauty is in the eye of the beholder. All these things are a feeling. It's not a thing. Perfection is something that is felt in a moment sometimes, where you're studying, as I often do in my garden. I grew up going, oh, I hate gardening, so boring. And my mum used to, have her friends round and talk about roses and things. I was like, oh my God, if this ever shoot me if I ever become I've become that woman. I absolutely love, all through lockdown, I was going out. I was so grateful that I had the space called a garden in which to walk about. And it's not that big. We live in the middle of Windsor. So I have a town house in the middle of Windsor. But we do have a garden. And my goodness, did I fall in love with it to a higher level during lockdown, and just the ability to go out. And this thing of perfection, it's like I felt it pretty much every time I was in the garden. I went out and I could see we're very close to the Thames. So we have geese flying over sometimes. And, towards the end of the summer, August time, they were doing their kind of maneuvers, their training for flying off somewhere, sunnier climes somewhere. And we were having them go over, and it was like, I kept saying to my boys, it's like having God's red arrows flying over every day, just amazing. That was perfection, seeing the V of the geese and the squawking going over you as you stand there just watching. That's a feeling of everything that's in alignment and of beauty and of perfection, to me anyway. So it's a feeling, and excellence is, for me, your personal. So I'm looking at everybody here, if you're listening, it's like your personal highest level, and what you can strive to become more of every day, in every moment. And it's not a switch you can just switch on. It's a journey, and there is work. And there is definitely effort. And sometimes some pain along the way, and some sacrifice, and all of those things. But I'm sitting here today, if nothing else, to, if you're hearing this and something's resonating, but you don't entirely believe it, then I'm going to offer up, just borrow my belief and take that one step, because it absolutely is a thing. And it's the most incredible thing. And it's one of those things that really has me feeling and physically getting younger every year.
Amen. Everybody can.
I mean it with literally every cell of my body.
I know. That's what I love. I absolutely know. Like, you're here. You're here talking about this subject because I know that you are this subject. I absolutely love it. If you were to give people 3 tips, because I'm looking at the time. I could speak to you forever, but I was just like, if you give people 3 tips, what would you give them?
I would say, and this was so hard when you asked me to think about 3 tips to share. Seriously, there's probably a book in there.
You are writing it.
I know. So the first one, everybody, take note. Get a piece of paper out and take full responsibility for you, for your impact, and for the influence that you have. And I say that because, again, every single one of you listening today, and Nadine and I totally come from this place, you have this already. And if you're not using it, then get yourself, some books, listen to some more of Nadine's conversations, get onto a podcast that resonates for you, somebody whose, voice and talk just kind of lands. But more importantly, think about maybe getting a coach as well, if that's something that feels right. But you have the full control that you could ever wish for to show up how you wish to show up. So number one, the only switch you've got to put on is the one where you are committed to at least taking responsibility for you. Yeah. So that's about leading in my world. Okay. This is about that path that I talked about where the lights only go on as you start walking into it. And the faith and the absolute evidence for those of us that have experienced this is that the lights just keep coming on. It doesn't matter how long you're in this place. It's like the lights just absolutely keep supporting you. And if you pick up a stride and you start going faster, even jogging, even sprinting through these things, the lights just keep coming on. They are powered by you and your movement. There is no sensor. The sensor is you. So lead, break from mediocrity. Do that today.
Yes.
Go first.
Yes.
Put yourself in a position where absolutely you break away from the norm around you. It's going to take some effort. Yeah. But it does create a massively better result. And you will feel like you have just been reborn and that everything around you takes on a whole new look and meaning. So that's my first one. Take full responsibility for you, your impact, and your influence. Number 2. She said,
it's an adventure. What Natasha was talking about is the adventure of a lifetime. You think that that you've reached the height of it, and then another one starts. It is an adventure of a lifetime.
Completely agreed. And the adventure gets better when you physically, mentally, spiritually just keep seeking excellence, that highest level of whatever your level is. So number 2, do all you can, and I'm going to repeat all you can for others. Yes. This leading is not about putting just yourself first. I'm going to say by default, you have put yourself first, i.e. you're eating well. Yeah. Clean food, you are exercising, you are meditating, you have and are working on having better relationships. The default for me is that is always happening. You cannot lead if you do not look after yourself. Okay?
Yeah, absolutely.
So this piece is not about put others first above you. This is about do all you can for others from this place of highest being.
Yeah.
Okay, because it brings the biggest joy in your life without any shadow of a doubt. But what does that look like? If you're thinking, well, does that mean I've got to give up my job and volunteer and, help all my neighbours? It's like, no, sometimes it's just being there to listen to somebody.
Yeah.
I would say that this year, one of the things that I think people are experiencing the most, that is the hardest, is that they are often connected all day long, plugged into, this kind of scenario, this environment of Zoom calls at work, working from home, distance from physical meetings and so on, but not really ever feeling listened to as a human, as an individual. So sometimes it's about listening. Nadine, you mentioned about how we as coaches hold space. Everybody listening is able to hold space for others in a way that they maybe don't have the experience with anyone else in their life. Like nobody ever gives them that experience and that feeling of presence and holding their space and allowing them just to communicate. Demonstrate respect comes under this. People often, and particularly in corporate space, this one comes up a lot with leaders where they say, I really respect that person. And I follow up with a question that says, great, how do you demonstrate that?
Yes. Whoa, I love that. I love that.
A powerful question, and one that is often met with some silence.
Yeah.
So it's a hard one to answer, how we demonstrate respect. So show acts of kindness. Be generous. Sometimes being generous, and I'm not talking money here. People's thoughts often go to, I'll give that person on the street £20, or that's not generosity in the sense that I'm talking about here. I'm talking about your time, your knowledge, and your compassion for others. Just allowing other people to be themselves.
Woo!
Okay? So that's number 2. Do all you can for others. And my last one is role model. It's absolutely linked with leadership for me at the highest level. Role modeling happens whether it's good role modeling or really bad role modeling. We are creatures of mirroring, and I also studied NLP, so we're but we mirror each other. We are influenced so greatly by those whom we share time with. So if you find yourself in a situation where it's hard work because you are the leader and you are called to role model good stuff, but you feel alone, then I would say find some extra people like you in some level of community in order to not give up that hard path of being maybe the only one that cares about good manners, the only one that cares about being respectful and holding that space for others. Be the one that, behaves in such a way that others cannot ignore. Like, it's just good. It feels good and it makes other people feel good. And what I'm going to say is that, we've seen a lot lately with, we're seeing about political things every day, which is where most people come into contact with the word leader or leadership. And it's been pretty poor all round, really, on levels of leadership. And it's not about just making decisions. For me, role model leadership is about inspiring others, being an inspiration. And the world could not do more right now than desire inspiring leadership. And it doesn't have to be at the top of you know, our country's statesman or whatever. This needs to happen in the masses. We all need to show up at our highest level. We all can be striving for that. We can all hold space for great manners and kindness and, you know, and just contribution, connection, and just sharing love with each other. And when I'm working with very senior business leaders, I'm talking about this. You know, there is no, I don't want anybody thinking there's some sort of other language in corporate world, because actually people need that compassion for themselves. You know, we're all so hard on ourselves when we're left on autopilot. Isn't it true though? It's like, what are we doing? Why? What's that voice in your head, you know, that says that's not good enough and don't say anything because they'll think you're stupid, or, you know, where did that come from? And why haven't we turned it off and replaced it with a new voice, or just told it at times, it's okay, I've got this. Thanks very much. In this situation, I don't need to be warded off. I'm okay. I can speak in this situation. So the world needs more inspiration, Nadine. So my third one is go out there and be the inspiration to others. Behavior is contagious. Be that contagion whilst we live in a pandemic and beyond.
Natasha, I feel so, it's just so wonderful to be in front of a person who I know is a leader and who actually walks all of their talk, because I know that that's what you do. And, you know, and to see how you've inspired different communities, whichever community that you're in, you are walking this talk consistently, because that's the thing, isn't it? It's that thing is, sometimes people can do it, sometimes we can't, but you do it consistently. It shines through every measure of your life and family and relationships and friendships and business. And, you know, I just celebrate that excellence in you, you know, that mirror that you have created, that role modeling that you have created, that transformation that you have created, that leadership that you have created, that inspiration that you are radiating out to so many people. You know, it is such a joy that you are in the world and stepping up and serving in the way that you are. Thank you, thank you, thank you, thank you. You've got Linda going, yeah! She's also saying, thank you so much, Natasha, for all your advice. You are such a blessing.
Oh, thank you, Linda.
And Gabby Tubbs is saying, you affirmed so much and made me feel better already.
Oh, that's so great. Thank you, ladies, for sharing.
It's so lovely to have had you. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Nadine.
How can people find you if they want to find you?
You can find me on LinkedIn, Natasha Mogg-Addis.
Yeah.
You can find me on About Me, and you can find me on Instagram and Facebook. We have a very unpopulated, well, not recently anyway, Facebook business page, but we work very much as a secret weapon behind the scenes, so you won't see us plastered all over with our business model anywhere, but you can get in touch via any of those platforms, and I would love to hear from you. So
absolutely, in whatever capacity. Tomorrow's show I will have Anne-Sophie Duprel, Soprano extraordinaire. Love that woman, and another woman with such a kind heart. And you talked about some of these attributes, about kindness and about generosity and love and patience and being able to listen. You know, all of this for me comes under the branch of estimable acts. And, you know, those estimable acts allow us to have a better self-esteem, you know. So I celebrate you. I can't formulate all my words today, but but it's so wonderful to know you, and thank you so much for honouring us with your presence on this show today.
Thank you.
And we're going to share it everywhere because loads of people need to see this. All right, my love, you take care, and thank you so much. Bye, everybody. Thank you for being with us.